Good morning. I am very excited for this video because I'm going to be organizing my life and essentially prepping and resetting for spring. So this video is going to be split into two sections. The first part, I'm going to be organizing my Notion because I have essentially got my whole life planned in Notion. Now, I'm fairly new to Notion. I would say I started it probably in autumn of 2024. But it has become my go-to hub for everything. However, it has gotten a bit out of hand because there are just things all over the place. It doesn't feel very organized and cohesive. So that's the first thing we will be doing. And the second part of this video, we will be reflecting on winter and setting our goals for spring. So a very organizational video, resetting for the new season. I'm very excited. I'm very happy. First thing we'll be doing is actually looking at our Notion. Now, I have got a homemade chai tea in my Disney cup. So I hope you have a nice warm drink and let's just get started with this resetting video. The ones we're going to sort out today are my writing specific ones. So as you can see, I've got quite a few different ones for writing and they're kind of all over the place. Some of them have the same information on them. It just doesn't feel very cohesive. So I want to organize that. The first thing we'll do is actually look for a better template. So let's just search one up. Novel writing project. So let's see if we can find one. Oh, that's expensive. Let's try novel or writing tracker because we want to look more project to project as well. This one's possible, however, I don't really want all of this information like with all the plot and the lore and everything because I have all of that in my Scrivener. So I don't want that to be in two places at once. So let's look for another one. This one looks good. I think this one could work. I like how you can have multiple projects as well within the template. I think that's a good thing. Let's try this one. It actually looks very cute as well. Whilst it loads, essentially I want all of my writing aligned information on here. So that is my projects, it's my timeline for my projects, my reading list, everything just in one place. So if we look at one of the projects, see, I like this because I do want something that has more of a timeline on there. I'm actually going to start off by reorganizing some of this. So let's change the cover first. Let's see. I don't like any of these. I think we're going to go onto Pinterest instead and see if we can find one. Go to Pinterest. So let's look at ancient library. I want something that's very obviously bookish. I don't love these. The thing is, the image on the template is horizontal. These are all vertical. So we need something that fits that. So let's look at a few others. Oh, I like this one. I think we can crop that so that it works. So let's try this. There's a lot of nice images, but I think we will go with that one that I've just downloaded. So let's upload that image. And once it loads, we'll just kind of move it so it fits where I want it. So we'll reposition that. Nice. Okay, I can obviously change this because it's a little bit blurry, but I think that will work quite well, at least for now. And what I'm going to do now is essentially we will reorganize this kind of setup because I don't want all of this information. I don't really need all of this information, or at least I don't want it in the primary location. So we'll get rid of this music one because don't want that, don't need that, won't use it. And we'll just move these across. So I will speed this up a little bit whilst I just move all of these across because I don't want to delete them in case I want to use them at a later stage, but I just don't want them on the left side because I want to put some of my other information on the left side. So let's do this and we'll just clean that up a little bit. Timer, Pomodoro timer. Let's keep that here and we'll just organize these a little bit more. I don't want any of this information because I really want this to be minimal in the sense of I don't want duplicate information in my Scrivener and on here. I want this Notion to be more of like an overview of my projects and of my writing rather than all of the information here because I do want to maintain a separation between this and my Scrivener. So let's organize this as well. I'm just making it look a bit more aesthetic as I personally like. And then we can go into adding more of the information that we actually want into this template. So let's start off with moving these. So we want writing courses, 2025 writing schedule. Now this is actually one from Brielle Writes that I did at the beginning of the year. I'm going to keep it here just because I think it gives a good overview of my kind of general goals. So I'm going to keep that. And then this is kind of writing courses that I've had a look at that I might want to do. And I'll just keep that information here as well. And then we'll have book timeline. We have book ideas and a reading list. So I want to read a total of 25 books this year. And I don't know if I'll meet that, but this is kind of the list of the books that I want to read, whether that's this year, next year. And then I've kind of split them up into what I think I can read in 2025 and what may need to be at a later stage. So I'll keep this here as well. Then we have our project. So this will be Project Emerald, which is actually the project that I'm currently working on. I do have a playlist on my channel with all of the videos regarding this particular project, so make sure to check them out. I want to clear up all of this information. I essentially want my mood board here, and I want my timeline and kind of like a tick off list that I can tick off tasks as I go along. All of this information I have in my actual Scrivener document, so I don't want it duplicated. So let's remove all of these. And then we will just add in our mood board. Okay, now that we've got the mood board, we have this timeline. Now I did make a timeline previously. Actually, let's add an emoji here. That's cuter. So I have a couple of other book ideas that I literally have the name of the project, or I just have very minimal information, barely nothing, but those are like for future projects and things. So I'm just going to add those in here as well. Like I said, literally Project Shadow at the moment, all I know is I think it's going to be a dark academia book. And then I have another book, which is like a cozy fantasy that I want to be based around like an artist gallery. That is literally all the information I have for these projects, but I'm going to note them in here anyway, just because I don't want to forget them. So we can move that other page to the bin, to trash. Now, let's change this name because it's not the home page. We'll change it to Writing Hub. Yeah, it will be Writing Tracker as well. So a big thing that we want to incorporate here, let's fix this, is our timeline for Project Emerald. Now, I did already make a timeline, but I want it in this project as well. So I don't know if I can move it straight into the project. No, it kind of, okay, I think I'm going to have to kind of redo it in the specific project from the template. So let's do that. We're just going to add in all of this information. The first thing we did was actually courses on Readsy and Skillshare. So I did those in like, I think October, November time. I actually did quite a lot. All of these courses were free. And when did I do these? Yeah, so these were all on Readsy and Skillshare. So that was just to give me a base in terms of writing fiction, writing in general. So that is what we did first. The next thing was, what was the next thing? Ideas. So I had like a bit of a phase where I did kind of like an ideation, almost brainstorming of the project of Project Emerald. This was at the very beginning. And then I just set up my next steps based off my ideas. So this was like figuring out what my next steps would be for the project. So this is perfect. I can see it in the timeline now. So I'm just going to add in the rest of what my plan is/was for this project. So research, brainstorming, another next steps phase, plot the book, outline the book. And then we also have draft 0, which is what I'm currently doing. And then we have prep for draft 1 and write draft 1. Those are all of the steps that we have. So I'm just going to fill out the dates for all the ones that I have done. I've actually done quite a few of these now, which feels really good. because I'm currently on the draft 0 phase of this project, which is really fun. But we will get a bit more into that in a moment. So I'm just going to fill out all of the dates that I did these. So a lot of these I actually did quicker than I thought I would, because I think I just had more time over winter, because I had quite a lot of days off from work. So I had more time to focus on this project and just organize myself and kind of get these things sorted out. So let me just finish adding in all these dates and all this information. Okay, so that is draft 0. So my plan for draft 0 is start in February and finish in September, end of September, I believe. Now I'm going to leave the prep for draft 1 and writing draft 1. I'm just going to add in, essentially for prepping for draft 1, we want to do that at the end of the year. So October, November, December. So 3 months at the end of the year where we prep for writing draft 1. And then actually writing draft 1 will be in 2026. That is my current idea for the spacing of this project. Obviously it might change, it might be quicker, it might be later, we'll see. That is the plan at the moment. And then I'm just going to add in kind of all of these aspects that I've completed as well. Okay, so now we can see it in the timeline, which is great. And I'm just going to add in another category where I can write what I've completed and what I'm in the process of. I just like to see what's actually done. Is that the right one? Let's make it green because it's completed. So we'll add those. Oh, wrong direction. Start from the top. So these are all of the ones that we've completed. I actually want to get rid of these columns because I don't need those here. So let's turn off those properties. So we don't want characters, we don't want chapters, and we also don't want the project thing. Yeah, perfect. We just want the title, the date, a bit of a description if we want to add those, and also the category that we have, which is just going to say completed or in process. So I'm just going to add in all of the completed ones. So we've done a lot of these, which is great. These were quicker ones, like draft 0 is definitely the one that is the longest out of all that I've done so far. So that is where we're at. We have that all set up, which is fabulous. I really like this. It's all organized now. I've got my projects. I can have multiple projects in one location. We can move this to the trash. Now we've just got our entire writing hub all together. We've got all of the information we need. We've got the different projects. We've got our writing schedule, writing courses, and our reading list. And it's just all in one location, which is exactly what we wanted. So that is organized. Okay, so for the second part of this video, we are going to be setting our goals for spring. Now I am splitting this up into 3 parts: writing goals, reading goals, and then more general goals, which is more focused on like writing habits and routines. So starting off with our writing goals. Now, as you saw in my timeline that we just looked at, my goal is to write draft 0 by the end of September. However, I think I can do it a lot quicker than that for 2 reasons. Firstly, I have gotten better at fitting in sprints throughout the week. I have gotten better at doing kind of smaller sprints and spreading them out rather than trying to write for hours on end and then kind of draining myself. So I've gotten much better in terms of consistency of writing. And I feel like I'm getting better at following my bursts of inspiration when I have them. This has been especially triggered from when I did like a solo creative retreat at the beginning of Feb. And I found myself feeling very inspired. I figured out ways that I could improve my inspiration, which I will speak about later on in my kind of habits and routines. But because of this, I have actually written Act 1 for draft 0 already. So that has been completed in February, which means I am going to have, so I'm actually going to split my goals into like a tier goal. And I heard of this from an AuthorTube Cafe video from Brielle Writes where she interviewed CodyTheWriter, and he mentioned that he has tier goals. And I think you can have as many tiers as you want. I'm going to personally have 2 tiers. The first will be like a minimum, which definitely be progressing, but it's more achievable. And then the second tier will be more of a challenge. So in terms of writing, my achievable goal will be to write Act 2 in spring. And with this in mind, it means that I can write Act 3 in summer. And that way, by the time autumn starts, I can be prepping for draft 1. that is my goal. And overall, I am using a 3-act structure, and I'm using a 27 chapter structure at the moment for my draft 0, which means 9 chapters in each act. So write 9 chapters in spring and write 9 chapters in summer. This is very achievable, which is why I'm going to have a challenge goal of writing the rest of draft 0 in spring. So that's act 2 and act 3. I do think I can do this with a bit of a push. I do think this is achievable. I've gotten, as I mentioned, better with doing sprints throughout the week and just with really following my creative inspiration a lot more often. So because of that, this is definitely going to be a challenge and it's going to be a push, but I think it's going to be an achievable push. So it's very possible. The reason I'm doing these 2 tiers is simply because I don't know how drained I'll get. Like, for example, over the beginning of winter, I was very tired from work, and because of that, I felt very drained and I couldn't put as much energy into my creativity. However, over February, I've had a bit more energy to do so, and this will depend on the projects that I am on at work and things like that. So because of this, I think having an achievable goal and also a challenge goal will just help me balance pushing myself as well as not pushing myself to the brink of burnout. So that is my writing goal. Now, for reading, I have an overall goal of reading 25 books in the year 2025. In terms of what I've read this past winter, so I read the last 2 books of the ACOTAR series in December, and then in January and February, I've read 3 books. So I've read Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. Onyx Storm? Onyx Storm? I think it's Onyx Storm. So I've read those so far. So that means I've read 3 books in the year 2025, which does technically mean I'm behind on my reading goals. However, I don't want to push myself to read so much that I get sick of reading or that it starts to feel like a chore. I do want to maintain the recreational aspect of it. So I'm not going to push myself or force myself to read that much more if it's just going to cause me to resent reading, essentially. So because of this, I actually do have quite a few books on my list that I want to read, and there's a few of them that I do actually want to read for spring. So my achievable goal for reading is to read Venture Below and Venture Beyond, which are both books by the author tuber Taylor. I've really enjoyed watching her vlogs and videos over the past few months, and these are her 2 books that she's already got published, so I definitely want to read those. And the third book that I want to read is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Now, this is a book that I heard about last year. However, it was already, I think, almost autumn by the time I heard of this book. And it just felt like a very spring book to read, which is why I want to now read it in spring, because I've been waiting to read it for spring. And the fourth book I want to read is actually a self-development book called Ikigai. So those are my 4 books that I want to read in spring, and that is my achievable goal. So I definitely think I can read 4 books in 3 months, and I think that will maintain the enjoyment of it. Now, my challenge for reading for spring is actually going to be to read those 4 and also an additional series on top of that. I have 2 options for the series that I want to read. The first is the Cruel Prince trilogy, and the second is the Serpent and Wings of Night, I believe it's called, and there's 4 books in that. So once I've read those 4 books in my achievable goals, I will then decide which of these series I will read, and that will result in an additional 3 or 4 books depending on which series I choose. So those are my reading goals. Now, in terms of my general goals and kind of more aligned to routines and habits, I have, I think, 3. Firstly, is in terms of how much time I spend on the project. The past few weeks, I've been playing around with this, and I think my minimum goal is going to be to write for 2 hours a week and read for 2 hours a week, which in total means that I write for 8 hours a month and read for 8 hours a month. I think this is achievable. It's sometimes a little bit of a push, but I think it is achievable. And I have been tracking this on Brielle Wright's TrackBear. So I think she'll do this again for March and onwards, so I'm hoping I can keep tracking my writing on there at least. That is my achievable goal. My challenge is to write for 10 hours and read for 10 hours a month, which is write for 2.5 hours and read for 2.5 hours a week. I think this is a bit of a push, but I do think it's doable. Even if I don't manage it every week, I think I can manage it on a few of the weeks. So that is going to be my challenge goals. Now, the other 2 aspects of this are actually things that I discovered whilst I was on my solo retreat at the end of Jan, early February, and that is firstly to get out of the house and write out of the house. So I actually went over that weekend, I went to a library to write, I wrote in a cafe and a few other places. So I want to do that once a month, where either I go to a different library or I just go to a different location right outside of the house. I do think this will be more achievable in spring and summer simply because of the weather. I'm going to want to leave my house more often anyway. Whereas in autumn and winter, I didn't. It was a real push to get myself outside of the house. But when I did, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to have a tier in terms of achievable or challenge goals. I'm just going to aim for once a month to write outside of the house and kind of make a day of it. And the second thing that I want to do is go to more exhibitions and museums. I went to a few last year, which were very fun, and I actually went to the MoCA Museum in early Feb on this creative retreat, which was also very fun. So my goal is to go to one of these every 6 weeks, which means it will be two for the season of spring. Again, I'm not going to do like an achievable or a challenge. Those will be my goals. If I do more than that, great. If I don't, also not a problem, because even just doing that much is not a challenge but is new for me. I am realizing that I actually have two more goals, and this is firstly to start a writing journal. Now, if you saw my solo creative retreat video, then you'll know that I journal in general. However, I want to start like a writing journal or a scrapbook, and this will be not only writing, this will be more of a creative scrapbook where I talk about my writing and reading. I might do some sketches in there. I definitely want to get some stickers and just like have a bit of fun and have it as like a creative scrapbook. So I want to start that in spring. I don't know how often I'll work on this. I think I'll let it be a bit more intuitive. Probably a minimum will be once a month, and then other than that, it will be intuitive if I want to do more than that. And the last one, and possibly the most important, is actually community. So that is the AuthorTube and BookTube community. In terms of AuthorTube, I am part of a writing Discord, which has been so much fun to just talk to people. I think I've mentioned this a few times in my other videos. It's just been fun to talk to people, to have some conversations here and there, to do sprints with people. I also do try to join live sprints as often as I can if the timing works with me, so I want to maintain that. Again, I'm not going to have a specific goal for this. This is just about maintaining community and connections because that has been so much fun and I just want to keep that going. Those are all of my goals for spring. I am thinking of maybe doing an update at the end of every month so that I can show you where I am with these goals, what I've achieved, maybe what I haven't achieved, and just those kind of things. So if that is something you want to see, then comment down below that you do want to see that. So yeah, I think those are all of my goals. I am very excited for spring. I am definitely a spring and summer girl. As soon as the weather changes, I'm a different person. I can't wait for the longer days. I can't wait for sunnier mornings, evenings, and just in general, the sun being out. So I'm very excited for spring. I also feel very good about my creative habits and goals because I think I've progressed so much since when I started in October and November. I've definitely figured out, first of all, I'm starting to figure out my own routines and habits and how I like to write, when I like to write, what I like to write. I'm also getting a lot better with just following my creative urges instead of kind of pushing them away or dismissing them. And I'm also getting a lot closer to this project, which is something that I'm really happy about. I'm leaning more into the characters and the story and the world, and I'm just allowing myself to be as creative and imaginative with it as I want. So that's been really fun. I'm very excited for this new season. And other than that, that is it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.